On a quiet morning in 2243, a single line of sound crossed the dark between suns and reached Earth. It was not music. It was not a greeting. The words were simple and cold. Approach and be destroyed. Every screen, every station, every little listening post translated the same warning. The message echoed through the United Terran fleet like a drop of ink in a glass of water. It spread, and then the world held its breath. Captain Amina Voss stood at the window of Fleet Command and watched the Pacific shine. She had flown survey cutters and rescue boats. She had faced storms and silence. She believed in patient hands, open channels, and quiet courage. She also knew fear when it spoke plainly. The alien voice was plain. It did not shout. It did not need to. It said, "Do not come." But Earth had waited too long to hide now. Humanity was not a whisper anymore. In the council chamber, leaders argued. Some said to wait and study. Some said to answer with a smile and a shuttle. Some said to answer with steel. The debate was not about pride. It was about safety. Old Star. Charts had warnings drawn in the margins. There were pirates, rogue machines, hungry empires. If Earth looked weak, someone bigger might push. If Earth looked cruel, someone bigger might strike first. The Council needed one ship to stand for all people and all hopes. They chose the UTS Leviathan. The Leviathan was more than a ship. It was a moving city built to survive the worst day. Its hull looked like a mountain turned inside out. It carried forests to grow food, lakes to make clouds, and hospitals to heal. It had tools to push asteroids, to lift broken stations, to shelter 1,000 families if a world failed. It also had guns, because space could be unkind. It was not made to start a fight. It was made so fights could not end the human story. When Amina first saw the Leviathan up close, it filled the view like a horizon. Dock lights traced slow paths across armored skin. The name on the bow was a quiet promise. She placed her palm on the glass and felt the vibration of the giant life within. A crew of 12,000 worked in measured rhythm pilots, gardeners, doctors, teachers, engineers. On the nursery deck, babies slept under a ceiling painted with stars and whales. On the hydroponics deck, sun lamps glowed over wheat and mango trees. On the orchestra stage, someone practiced a cello line that sounded like hope, trying to remember its melody. Lieutenant Mickle Park, her comms officer, brought up the alien signal and played it again. Same phrase, "Captain." No change in tone. No reply to our handshake. Amina listened with her eyes closed. In that flat voice she heard fear, not malice fear. A people who warned like that had seen something terrible once. She wondered what it was. She wondered if they thought humans would be that same terrible thing. "Record," Amina said. Mikkel nodded. She spoke slowly, in simple words. "To the senders of the warning, we heard you. We do not wish to harm you. We wish to meet, learn, and trade. We will keep a safe distance. We will wait for your terms." She paused, then added, "We bring medicine. We bring food. We bring stories." Mikkel sent the packet on every standard band, and a few clever ones, too. Space stayed quiet. Chief Engineer Rhea Malik walked in with a checklist and grease on her sleeve. "Reactor is green. Transit coils are green. Mass is within tolerance if we stay light on shuttle sorties. We're ready to fly, Captain." Amina thanked her and asked about the gardens. Rhea smiled. "Tomatoes are red and proud. The basil is a jungle. The kids are planning a bean sprout science fair." It was a small thing, but it mattered. A ship that could grow food could grow trust. The departure ceremony was gentle. No parades, no loud speeches. Family windows opened across Earth and Luna. Faces filled the screens. Some waved, some cried, some pressed hands to glass like Amina had done. A teacher in Nairobi held her class close and said, "Watch carefully." This is what it looks like when people try to be brave and kind at the same time. The Leviathan's bell rang once, a low note that felt like a heartbeat shared across oceans. On the command deck, the stars looked like salt scattered on black velvet. Amina strapped in. Mikhail took his seat. Navigator Darya Sol stood at the holotable and drew a path to the Yelthari border, the source of the warning. 2 jumps, Darya said. We arrive outside their patrol sphere. Plenty of room to stop, wait, and talk. Amina liked those words. Stop, wait, talk. She repeated them inside her mind until they felt strong. Before the first jump, Amina walked the spine of the ship. She moved past the gym, where crew ran in slow rhythm, past the clinic, where nurses checked supplies, past the theater where stage lights tested warm amber. In hydroponics, she knelt and touched a row of mint leaves. The sharp, clean smell rose up and surprised her. It reminded her of her mother's kitchen. It reminded her that home could be carried. You come with us, she whispered to the plants. You help us speak. Back on the bridge, a light pulsed. A reply at last. Mikhail opened it with careful hands. The alien voice was the same. Approach and be destroyed. No more, no less. But under the words, the sensors traced a slight tremor. It could have been a system quirk. It could also have been a hand that shook. Amina sat very still. She thought of the basil jungle, the baby's underpainted wails, the teacher in Nairobi, the cello line trying to be brave. We will approach, she said, and we will not destroy anything. Her voice stayed steady. Set jump 1. The crew answered in chorus. Buttons clicked, coils sang. The great ship gathered itself like a swimmer at the edge of a pool. The decks thrummed. The stars stretched into thin silver threads. Amina looked into that bright tunnel and made a quiet promise. She would not let the ship's size speak louder than their hearts. She would not let fear decide the story. The Leviathan leaped, carrying forests, kitchens, songs, classrooms, and a simple wish to be understood before being judged. Far away, an empire listened to its own old scars. Between them, a path opened, and part 2 waited. The jump ended, with a soft shiver through the decks. The stars snapped back into sharp points, and the bridge lights steadied. The UTS Leviathan floated at the edge of a blue-white sun and a ring of small worlds. Captain Amina Voss felt the ship's weight settle like a deep breath finally let out. Report, she said, calm and clear. Position is good, Navigator Darya Sol replied. We are outside their patrol lines, 5 light minutes from the capital world. No close traffic, no debris. Her hands moved like water over the hull table. A pale sphere grew in the air, crisscrossed with clouds and shining seas. 2 small moons kept it company like quiet guards. Comms Officer Mikhail Park listened hard, one palm over his headset. Local channels are busy, he said. I hear control beacons, city weather, school lessons, music. And he swallowed. Alert tones. They see us. They would. The Leviathan was not a small thing. Against the bright star, the ship showed as a slow, dark shape with 1,000 tiny windows. Radiators stretched like wings, antenna masts made long, thin spines. If you watched from the planet, you would see a new star move with purpose. If you stood on a hill at dusk, you might mistake it for a low, patient cloud. It was not a monster, but it was not gentle-looking either. Life support to steady warm, Chief Engineer Rhea Malik called from her station. We will vent heat away from the planet. No sharp flares. We keep our glow soft. She knew what fear could do. She did not want to paint the sky with a flash that looked like a threat. On the planet below, the Yelthari looked up. Some were in markets with woven roofs. Some were on ferries that crossed green rivers. Some were in towers that curved like shells. A child named Etla pressed her face to a window and pointed. New moon? She asked. Her parents shook their head, voice tight. Not a moon. a visitor. In the Yelthari Senate Dome, news feeds poured in like rain. One screen showed the Leviathan's outline traced by a defense net. One showed crowds stopping in the streets. One showed pilots running to their craft. It plots flight lanes across 5 cities, a staffer warned. It is larger than any ship we have on record. Scale, unknown. Purpose, unknown. A senator tapped the table with a claw and said the word no one liked, planet killer. The word felt heavy and wrong, but it stuck. Amina kept her eyes on the planet's curve. She saw thin cloud bands, slow tides, a ring of pale reefs. It looked like any home from far away. We hold distance, she said. No sudden moves. Open a clear line. Mikkel sent the greeting again. He added simple pictures. A hand open, a leaf in sunlight, a cup of water. He added music, a short melody on a cello and flute. He added a star map, marked with the path they had taken. He spoke slowly in the math language both species could share. A reply came fast this time, but it was not warm. The same voice from the warning spoke. Leave our sky. You are not welcome. Approach and be destroyed. Under the stern tone there was a small, shaky echo. Mikkel looked up. There's fear in it, he said softly. They're afraid of us. Rhea checked her board again. Reactor steady. Gardens steady. She hesitated. Captain, our heat pattern might look like a weapon charge if they read it wrong. I can soften it more, but the crew will feel a little chill. Do it, Amina said at once. We will wear sweaters. The crew would understand. A little cold on the hands was a fair price for a calmer sky. The Leviathan turned with a slow, careful roll to keep its smallest side toward the planet. It felt like bowing. It felt like a great tree leaning away from a house so its branches would not scrape the roof. On the surface, Itla laughed when the hours passed at the quiet point between the 2 moons. The UTS Leviathan held position with gentle puffs from her thrusters. On the bridge, Captain Amina Voss kept the room calm. Voices stayed low. Movements stayed slow. She asked the crew to breathe in for 4 counts and out for 6. We are guests, she said. Let our pace show respect. Outside, the big ship shone like a still lake under starlight. Amina recorded a new greeting. She spoke in simple words and steady tone. Neighbors of the Yelthari world, we hear your concerns. We will not come closer without your consent. We will accept your rules for distance and power. We ask for a way to talk that feels safe to you. Comes Officer Mikkel Park, wrapped her voice with pictures, an open hand, a leaf, a cup of water, a small house under a sky with 2 moons. He added a soft melody of cello and flute, the same tune they had sent before, so it felt like a familiar doorbell. In the Yelthari Senate Dome, the screens glowed bright. Marshals lined the walls. Officials spoke in tight bursts. It is still. There. It is too large. Its radiators span a city. The elder advisor Vara lifted one hand for quiet. Her voice was rough with age but kind. Fear makes the eye bigger, she said. Ask them to follow our terms. If they accept, we learn. If they refuse, we know enough. The Senate voted. A message formed, strict but not cruel. The reply reached the Leviathan like a pebble tapping glass. Hold at 15 lunar radii. Reduce thermal output to winter levels. Deploy no craft. Place 1 uncrewed beacon at the midpoint. We will test it. We will speak through it. Mikhail read it twice, then looked to Amina. It was not warm language, but it was a door. Amina's yes came without pause. We agree, she said. Chief Malik, can we cool further without harm? Rhea Malik glanced at her boards and smiled, a tired smile. We will ask the crew to put on sweaters. The Basil will grumble. We can do it. Engineers dimmed non-essential lights. Kitchens set ovens to share heat with the air. The crew pulled on soft jackets from lockers with embroidered stars. In the nurseries, Caregivers tucked blankets over sleeping infants and whispered silly stories so the room still felt bright. The ship's glow softened. On the planet, sensors redrew their maps and showed smaller, safer curves. A watcher in the Senate breathed out and did not know why the breath had been held so long. With permission granted, the Leviathan released a small, bright buoy. It was round and smooth, no sharp edges, no hidden doors. It held a simple relay, a chemical lab, to test air and soil, and to cameras that faced away from the ship and toward the empty space between worlds. A gentle shove sent it drifting to the midpoint. When it arrived, it blinked a friendly pattern like a lighthouse. The Leviathan backed away the width of another moon, as promised. 3 Yelthari scoutcraft went out to meet the buoy. One pilot was Tern, the same who had first called the port's mouths. He flew with careful hands and a fast heart. The human ship, far behind, looked like a dark hill on the horizon. Even at that distance, it felt heavy to his eyes. He focused on the small buoy instead. It was neat. It was patient. It did not point anything like a weapon. He docked a probe to it and waited for tests to run. Inside the Senate, results appeared, line by line: air sample, safe; soil sample, in sealed vial, harmless; message channel, open. A set of icons scrolled across the display. The first icon showed a small table with 2 cups. The second showed a blank page and a pen. The third showed a home with a patch on the roof. Vara Shell tilted her head. "They speak in repairs," she murmured. "Interesting." She suggested a test question. Ask them for a story about what they fix first when a storm breaks something they love. Mikkel smiled when the question arrived. He liked the shape of it. He liked that it was not about engines or walls, but about care. He and Amina gathered a few small things. They sent a photograph of an old clay bowl mended with bright seams. They sent a short video of a lighthouse keeper drying a lens and lighting it again after rough seas. They sent the image of a quilt made from many different patches, each with a memory stitched in, and they sent words. "When storms come, we fix what keeps others warm. We repair before we replace. We try to leave the mend visible, so the story of the break can teach courage." While the buoy blinked, life continued below. In a city by the sea, the child Etla drew the visitor with a blue crayon and 2 friendly eyes. Her parent posted the drawing to a neighborhood net with a simple message: "We hope it is kind." Others answered with their own drawings: a floating whale, a gentle giant, a house in the sky. The pictures did not change policy, but they changed some hearts for a few quiet minutes. Very often, that is where real change begins. Back at the midpoint, the scouts sent their own gift through the buoy, a tiny carving shaped like a river stone, etched with swirling lines. The lines told the story of the Yelthari's first floods long ago, and how they built terraces and learned the rhythm of the rains. They wrote, "When storms come, we pour tea for neighbors, count heads, and sing. We fix the steps to the high ground first." Amina read it twice and felt her chest warm. Different worlds, same lesson. The first talk took shape as a timetable of light. Every hour, on the hour, each side would add 1 image and 1 short sentence to the buoy. No one had to cross a hull. No one had to face a door that might hide a trap. It was slow, but it felt safe, and safe is where trust learns to walk. The Leviathan's orchestra played the simple melody at the top of each hour, and the buoy recorded it, and the Yelthari archives saved it with care. Still, fear did not vanish. In the Senate, hard voices said, "This is cover for a weapon test." They pointed to the Leviathan's long, silent flanks and imagined great heat waiting underneath. On the Leviathan, careful minds said, "They might still push us away." They pointed to old maps with warning marks and imagined a fast order to leave. Between those 2 tight ideas, The little buoy blinked its patient light and kept passing stories. Near midnight ship time, a new instruction arrived from the planet. For next cycle, please show your internal power state to prove reductions. It was a fair request, but a tricky one. Most aliens would read the Leviathan's graphs as weapon charts, because the ship was so large and so layered. Amina rubbed her temple, then smiled. We will show the small things, she said. Let them see kitchen stoves share heat. Let them see sweaters on hooks. Let them see the greenhouse lights on cloudy day. So the crew filmed gentle scenes. A cook stirring soup by the aftergalley's skylight. A technician placing a hand on a warm pipe and nodding at the steady hum. A teacher on the nursery deck reading a bedtime book under a dimmer lamp, with a row of tiny hats on a peg behind her. No secrets, no boasts. Just ordinary care in a floating town. Mikkel sent the clips with a single sentence. This is how we keep our people safe, while we keep you comfortable. Then the bridge settled into its night rhythm. Screens softened. Footsteps grew fewer. Amina stood at the window and watched the planet turn. Thin clouds slid over dark seas. Somewhere down there, a child drew a ship with a smiling face. Up here, a captain set her jaw and chose patience again. Morning would bring new questions. Morning might bring new doubt. It might also bring a first small yes that mattered. Amina did not try to guess. She simply touched the glass with her palm, the way she had done before departure, and made one more quiet promise. We will speak softly until you can hear us. Far away, the buoy blinked once, twice, 3 times, like a heartbeat finding a calm pace in a storm. Morning came to the quiet point between the moons, and the UTS Leviathan still held its careful place. The tiny relay buoy blinked on schedule, passing simple messages like a faithful postman in a storm. Captain Amina Voss stood at the bridge window with a cup of tea that had gone cold. Patience was not hard for her, but the silence under fear felt heavy. She set the cup down. Let us keep doing small things well, she said. Small things tell the truth when big things look scary. Chief Engineer Rhea Malik dimmed more lights and slowed a row of pumps to save heat. The ship grew cooler, by 1 gentle degree. Crew pulled sleeves down and rubbed their hands, smiling at each other in that we're in this together way. Then the Leviathan's life support system switched to a new cycle that moved warm air through different pipes. Inside the ship, it felt like a soft breeze changing halls. Outside, Yelthari sensors read a sudden shift in thermal pattern. On their screens, the graph curved up and then down, and to some eyes it looked like a weapon charge and a test fire. Alarms chirped in the Yelthari Senate dome. Voices tightened. They are cycling power. They are sizing us. Reports rushed in faster than calm could hold. The elder advisor Varashal lifted her hand for quiet, but the fear had already run 2 steps ahead. A message shot toward the buoy: cease power fluctuation at once. Declare your weapons state. The words were stern and clipped. Amina did not flinch. Answer with clarity, she told Comms Officer Mikkel Park. Show them our day-night schedule for airflow. Show them the hospital wing diagrams. Show them how the kitchens borrow heat. Mikkel sent simple drawings, arrows for air, dots for people, a clock face with tiny suns and moons. He added a short line of text. This is not weapon cycling. This is how we keep our crew warm and breathing while holding still. The reply paused longer this time. Some doubt had found a chair. Then, before the room could settle, a new trouble hatched from nothing. Dawn came slowly in the Yelthari sky, painting the clouds in pink and gold. From the Leviathan's bridge, Captain Amina Voss watched the planet turn, the first hints of morning light spilling across its oceans. She could almost imagine what it looked like from the surface: a world waking up, people walking to markets, children rushing to lessons. But here, in the cold space between the moons, she felt the weight of stillness. Talks had not begun in person. Fear still filled the gap between two civilizations. Then something unexpected happened. A sharp pulse lit up the Leviathan's sensor grid, a narrowband signal sweeping across the system. It was not Yelthari in origin. Unidentified transmission. Comes Officer Mickelpark reported, adjusting his console. It's coming from high orbit over the second moon, triangulating now. The signal was clean, deliberate, and too focused to be random noise. Navigator Darya Sol frowned at the readings. It's not aimed at us. It's aimed everywhere. This looks like a broadcast beacon. Amina's brows knit. Broadcasting to who? The answer came 10 minutes later, when the Leviathan's intelligence station pulled up the source. The beacon belonged to the archivist Sa-Neutral, galaxy-spanning network of record-keepers who prided themselves on showing the truth without commentary. They had no armies, no fleets, only cameras, drones, and eyes in places most people didn't notice. If they were here, it meant the galaxy was already watching. The realization sank into the room like a stone in water. Mikkel tapped his console, and a live feed appeared. It showed the Leviathan from a great distance, her black hull cutting a line through the storefield. Across the bottom of the image, captions scrolled in multiple languages. First contact, the Deathworlders arrive. Other feeds showed the Yeltari Senate in session. The escort line between the moons, and disturbingly analysis from alien commentators speculating on Earth's intentions. On one channel, a merchant captain claimed that Dreadnought is a threat display. No peaceful people arrive in a warship that size. Another commentator, an elderly avian scholar, shook her head. Or perhaps they are as strange as they seem, bringing their cities with them, so they never travel without shelter. The crew fell silent as they watched themselves become a spectacle. This wasn't just a meeting anymore. This was theater, and the audience was the entire spiral arm. Amina stood very still. "We are not here for performance," she said quietly. "But now we must live with the stage." She ordered the crew to be mindful of every visible action. Everything we do is no longer just for the Yeltariat, is for everyone who will judge humanity by what they see in these broadcasts. Rhea Malik, the chief engineer, shook her head. Then we should show them who we are, not just the outside of the ship. Let them see the gardens, the children, the kitchens. But Mikkel hesitated. The Yeltharis still have rules: no bays, no shuttles, no opening doors. We can't risk making them think we're breaking agreements. True, Amina said, but we can work within the rules. She thought for a moment, then smiled. We'll use the viewing galleries. The Leviathan's outer galleries had huge transparent windows, looking out at the stars. Crew gathered there in their daily routines, tending plants, practicing music, exercising. It was not showing the ship's guts, but it was showing its heart. The cameras in those galleries had open feeds to public channels for morale purposes. Now, those feeds were about to become the galaxy's window into humanity. Within an hour, the archivist broadcast was carrying glimpses of life aboard the Leviathan. A small group of children, laughing as they tried to chase a floating ball in zero gravity. A gardener trimming mint leaves and letting a crew member inhale the fresh scent. Two scientists quietly playing chess beside a porthole, while Earth hung in the background on a holographic map. The orchestra rehearsing the now familiar cello and melody. The footage rippled across alien networks. Some viewers were surprised, others suspicious. One panel host remarked, "These humans smile too much for soldiers." Another countered, "Or perhaps they are hiding their weapons under a coat of warmth." Down on the Yelthari capital world, the Senate also saw the feeds. Some counselors scoffed, but others leaned forward in thought. One senator, a younger voice named Realcor, said, "If this is deception, it is an odd kind. They are showing us weakness, children, leisure, art. That is not how predators posture." Elder advisor Vara Shell simply nodded, as if the images matched something she had long suspected. Meanwhile, Pilot Turn in the escort line watched the public channel during a quiet moment. He saw the gardener laugh when a plant sprayer malfunctioned, misting her face. It was so ordinary, so utterly unlike the cold, precise threat of a siege ship, that Turn found himself doubting his own earlier judgment. But broadcasts cut both ways. The archivists also showed the Elthari military's preparations, reinforced orbital stations, shield drills, long patrols across the capital's sky. Viewers across the galaxy were now watching not just the humans, but the Elthari too. Some began to murmur, perhaps the fear is mutual. Back on the Leviathan, the day's buoy exchange came through. This time the Elthari sent an image of their great library under the Capitol dome, with the message, "We record history as we live it." "Do you?" Amina smiled as she prepared the reply. She sent an image of Earth's oldest surviving cave paintings, alongside a picture of the Voyager Golden Record, still traveling beyond the edge of the solar system. Her words were simple. "We have always left signs for those who come after." When the reply went out, Mikkel leaned over to her. "Captain, the archivists will broadcast that too. The whole galaxy will see it." "I know," Amina said, her eyes fixed on the planet's curve. "And if we are to be judged, let it be by our truest self, far beyond the moons, in places neither human nor Elthari had ever visited." Strangers watched the feed of a human dreadnought holding perfectly still, trading pictures and words with a cautious world. Some were impressed, some were worried, some were curious. But all now knew one thing for certain: the humans had arrived, and they had brought with them not just steel and engines but stories. And somewhere inside the Elthari Senate, a vote was quietly forming. The question was simple, but it carried the weight of worlds. Should the voice channel be opened? Amina didn't know it yet, but the decision would come with the sunrise. Asterisk sunlight touched the rims of the two small moons, and the vote arrived with it. The Elthari Senate had opened a narrow door, a voice channel with strict rules. The Leviathan must hold distance, keep heat low, deploy no craft, and show no sudden changes. In return, words could finally cross the dark without waiting for the buoy. Captain Amina Voss stood steady at the bridge window as Comms Officer Mikkel Park brought the channel live. The first Elthari voice sounded like smooth stone, in a stream-aged, careful, and kind. "This is Advisor Varashal. We will ask and you will answer simply. We wish to see you as you are," Amina answered in the same plain rhythm. "This is Captain Amina Voss. We will be simple. We will keep our promises." The room exhaled. It was only sound, but sound felt like a hand held out. The questions began with safety. "Confirm your emergency protocols," Amina described. "Fire barriers, medical wings, and how kitchens shared heat with air, so the crew stayed warm while the ship stayed gentle. Confirm your weapon state." Amina gave the words she had prepared for days. "Lockers sealed, targeting suites asleep. No doors open." Her voice did not try to charm. It tried to be clear. Varashal listened without interrupting. When she spoke again, the question was softer and closer to the heart. "What fills the rest of your hull? You say shelter. You say schools. We see only armor. Show us more than outline." Amina had been waiting for that line. She did not jump. She did not push. "Honored Advisor," she said, "you asked us to keep all bays shut. We will not break that promise. But we can request a small exception under your eyes." She explained about the Leviathan's forward greenhouse on arc of glass and shutters that could open to starlight without venting a breath of air. "We call them viewing curtains. If you allow, we will open one curtain for 12 minutes. We will keep every other door closed. Nothing will leave the ship. You may station scouts to watch. You may scan every wavelength as it happens." Silence followed, full of thinking. The Senate argued off mic for a long minute. Then Varashal returned. "You will open one curtain. 12 minutes. All other rules stand." Begin on our mark. 1,000 tiny feelings moved across the Leviathan like a breeze. Hope in the gardens, nerves on the bridge, a little burst of laughter in the nursery. Chief Engineer Rhea Malik rolled her shoulders and began the checklist. Curtain seals. Verified pressure good. Temperature good. No external activity within 500 meters. We are ready, Captain. Navigator Daria Sol plotted a slow roll that would turn the greenhouse toward the planet with the grace of a dancer. Amina visited hydroponics before the moment. The air smelled like mint and damp soil. Rows of wheat shifted under soft fans. Mango. Trees wore small green lanterns of fruit. A narrow river ran down the center, bright and quiet. Children stood with tiny watering cans and serious faces, while a teacher whispered reminders. No running. No shouting. We are guests to a new kind of sky. A cellist tuned in the corner. 2 botanists tied back vines, so the view would be clean. Amina rested her palm on a warm pipe and spoke to the crew in a low voice. We are not putting on. The first seat exchange had changed the air in both places. On the Leviathan, crew members carried themselves with a little more lightness, as if the corridors had grown longer, but less heavy. Down on the Yeltari world, in markets and ferry boats, people whispered about the human garden under glass. The archivist's broadcast of the forward greenhouse replayed endlessly, accompanied by that gentle cello melody. Across the galaxy, strangers began calling the Leviathan the ship that grows forests. In the Yalthari Senate Dome, Advisor Vara Shah leaned on her carved staff and looked over the day's agenda. Fear still sat in many chairs, but now it had to share space with curiosity. Younger senators pressed for something unheard of: a small, face-to-face meeting. It would not be in the capital, and it would not be aboard the Leviathan. It would happen in neutral orbit, above the smaller moon, in a sealed chamber, provided by the archivists, with no weapons allowed. The humans send only one representative, Vara said, and they come with empty hands. The vote passed. Narrow, but real. The invitation reached the Leviathan just after ship's dawn. On the bridge, Captain Amina Voss read the message twice. She could feel the weight behind each word. We will meet you. We will see you. The crew fell quiet as she looked around the room. I will go myself, she said. Mikkel Park started too. Protest captains did not usually leave their ships during such delicate moments, but Amina's tone was calm and certain. We built this whole journey to make a bridge. It is my place to walk across it first. Preparation began at once. The rules were strict. No gifts but one symbolic item. No hidden devices. No armor. No escorts beyond the shuttle pilot. The Leviathan's crew debated what that single item should be. A weapon to prove honesty about strength. A technical tool to show cooperation. Amina shook her head. Not a tool, not a map. Something alive. She went to hydroponics and stood among the mango trees. The botanists offered seedlings. The gardeners offered cuttings. In the end, she chose a small ceramic pot of Terran soil, rich and dark, with a single sprout of basil curling toward the light. If we give them this, she said, they will smell our kitchens, our gardens, our summer air. They will know we do not come empty. The shuttle was prepared under careful watch from the Yeltari escort line. Its small frame was painted white, every hatch sealed except for the passenger bay. Pilot Daria Sol volunteered to fly. She was known for steady hands and quiet words. I'll take you there, she told Amina, and I'll bring you home. The archivist's meeting chamber floated like a pearl above the smaller moon, its smooth surface showing no sign of doors until they opened. Inside, the air was warm and faintly sweet. Amina stepped through the hatch to find a long oval table between 2 semicircles of seats. On one side, 3 Yelthari waited. Vara Shah, a younger senator named Rael Kaur, and a silent figure in deep blue robes, whose eyes watched every movement. Amina bowed slightly in greeting. She placed the pot of basil in the center of the table, and stepped back. "This is a piece of my home," she said. "It has grown under our care. Now it can grow under yours, if you wish." Varashel reached out, her clawed fingers gentle against the rim of the pot. She bent closer, inhaling the bright, green scent. "It smells of warm rain," she murmured. Rahel Kor tilted his head. "Why bring soil? Why not your strongest weapon, or your fastest machine?" Amina met his gaze. "Because those things do not explain us. We defend ourselves, yes, but we live for mornings, in the garden, for meals shared, for children laughing under a painted ceiling. That is why our ship is large. It carries not just what we need to fight, but what we cannot bear to lose." For a long moment, no one spoke. The basil's leaves shifted in the chamber's quiet air. Then Varashel nodded slowly. "We have always feared ships that carry war, but perhaps we should also fear ships that carry their homes so far and perhaps admire them too." The meeting moved carefully from there. Trade routes discussed without promises, shared dangers named without blame. Amina listened more than she spoke, answering with plain truth when asked, holding her ground when suspicion arose. She told them of Earth's history. The storms survived, the plagues endured, the long nights when humanity learned to keep a single candle burning for a neighbor outside the chamber. The archivist's cameras recorded the simple image of a human and 3 Yelthari sitting at the same table, with a small green plant between them. Across the galaxy, people watched without knowing the words. But the sight alone told a story. 2 distant worlds leaning toward each other instead of away. When the meeting ended, Varashel stood and carried the pot herself to a small niche in the chamber wall, setting it under a beam of warm light. "We will tend it," she promised. "And when it grows large enough, we will send you a cutting, so the plant lives in both our worlds." As Amina boarded the shuttle for the return, pilot Daria glanced at her in the rear display. "You're smiling," she said. "I am," Amina replied, "because we crossed something today that no ship can measure in meters." The Leviathan welcomed her back with quiet pride. News of the meeting spread through the decks, and in hydroponics, the crew planted a second basil sprout in the same kind of pot, so the ship would always have a twin for the one left behind. In the Senate dome far below, debates still burned, and some still spoke against Truspet now. In one high alcove, a green leaf unfurled toward the light, and its scent was already changing the air. Amina looked out from the bridge at the planet, turning beneath the moons. "A bridge has been built," she whispered, "and it began with a seed and a chair at the same table." The day after the first meeting, calm held like a ribbon between the 2 moons. On the Leviathan, Captain Amina Voss walked the spine and felt the ship's steady hum in her bones. Down on the Yelthari world, Advisor Varashel stood by a window and touched the green leaves of the basil the humans had given. Far away, the archivist's feeds replayed the quiet image of a shared table and a small plant under warm light. Trust was still new. It felt like a bridge made of glass, beautiful, but you stepped carefully. Then the sky changed. It began as a thin hiss on sensors, a whisper that became a shout. Navigator Daria's soul saw it first. A river of cold stones, fast and sharp, sliding from the dark side of the sun. Old dust, new fragments. A tangle of glittering threats, the kind of storm that could slice through stations and turn small ships into bright, brief rain. "Debris surge," Daria said, voice low but clear. "Projected path crosses the smaller moon and the archivist chamber. Time to impact, 31 minutes. For one breath, the bridge was silent. Then Amina spoke. "Comes to open. Yelthari command. Archivist control. We see the storm. We can help." She turned to Chief Engineer Rhea Malik. "We will need the big ports, the ones that look like mouths." Rhea nodded once. "Mass drivers hot in 12 minutes. Tractor rings in 15. We can push, not crush." Comes Officer Mickle Park, added. "Broadcast every step. No secrets." The voice of Varashal came thin and tight over the line. We see it too. Our shields are for rain, not for knives. What can you do? Amina did not sell hope like a promise. She placed it like a tool on a table. We can move stones. We can turn the river so it misses your people. But to do that, we must open our bays. We will keep every action on the public feed. We invite your scouts to watch from 3 sides. A short storm of debate rushed through the Senate. Then the answer came. Open them, save who you can. Orders ran through. The Leviathan like light along a wire. The forward guns, that were not guns, heavy ports, with thick rails, and kinder hearts woke from their sleep. Panels unfurled. Radiators shifted. The ship rolled and took a stance like a lifeguard running into waves. In hydroponics, children were led to the inner decks with calm voices and quick smiles. In the nursery, the ceiling whales looked down on tiny hats hanging in pairs. In the orchestra pit, a single cellist sat on a stool and drew a slow, steady tone. The same melody everyone knew now, because fear moves fast, and music helps the feet remember where to stand. First throw ready, Rhea said. We will push. The lead cluster high. Amina's hand hovered over the send key, then pressed. The Leviathan spoke in a deep, patient language of force. From those round ports, slugs of shaped ice mass, not fire shot into the path of the debris. They kissed the leading stones and nudged them, not hard enough to break, just firm enough to change the curve. The archivist's captions blinked on screen for all to read. Mass drivers, deflection, mode, nitrogen monoxide, thermal spikes, course change, verified. Pilot turn-in, holding station with the escort line, watched with his heart in his throat. He saw the big ship take one cluster, then the next, moving the river like a shepherd turning a flock around a cliff. This is not how a siege ship fights, he whispered. This is how a harbor works. He signaled his controller. I request to guide the last cluster clear of the meeting chamber. Approval came at once. He slipped down into the path and blinked his lights in a pattern the Leviathan could read. The giant moved with him, gentle and exact. Below, on the pier by the sea, the child Etla held her parents' hand and watched 3 lines in the sky, the 2 moons, and the dark shape between them that now glowed with a soft halo each time it breathed out a push. Is it saving us? She asked. Yes, her parents said, and did not hide their tears. Impact time fell away. Minute by minute, the first edge of the storm brushed the smaller moon's thin air.